From the years 1820 to 1850, evangelism swept the nation. Women took on a bigger role in society, becoming educators and reformists. Major shifts in morality occurred as children were seen as innocent and pure. This is Evangelism and Education. 1820 to 1850 was a time of great social and economic change in America. Cities were growing dramatically and people were calling for change. Most active of those calling for change were women who were fighting for equal rights, more specifically, the right to vote. After the Seneca Falls Convention of 1848, where women gathered to work for political, social, and legal equality, states began to pass laws that were more favorable for women.
As written in the New York Daily Tribune about the women's suffrage movement in Western Worcester, the full and equal enjoyment of political franchises would improve the lot of women may be doubtful, but we are willing to give that democratic theory a fair trial. This article stated the ideas, proposed that Women's Rights Convention in Worcester would most likely not be successful in giving women an equal part in society, but were worth trying. The mindset of being able to do this was a change key from 1820 to 1850.
Another feature of this time of drastic change in America was the growing wealth gap. By 1840, the top 1% of the population owned a staggering 40% of the wealth. This massive increase in wealth disparity was partially due to the market revolution and the switch from an agricultural economy to a manufacturing economy. Oh, I didn't see you there.
Urban growth soared from 1820 to 1850, in part because of an increase in immigration. The Irish potato famine of 1845, where 1.5 million people immigrated from Ireland, most coming to America, caused big cities to swell in population and led to the creation of instant cities. The immigrants had no money to travel inland upon arriving in the coastal cities and would therefore stay in them, causing their population to rise. The East Coast cities were not the only ones to see population growth due to immigration. California, who was in the middle of a gold rush, attracted immigrants from China, who came over to work in the mines.
Social and political reform were a key part of American society from 1820 to 1850. Although Americans valued education, it was not available for everyone, especially the lower class, until 1827, when Massachusetts set the stage for modern education by providing it through the government. Not long after this drastic change for education system, schooling for children became more common. With this increase in education for children, there became a higher demand for teachers and women took these jobs. Not everyone was happy with this new job opportunity for women, though, and newspapers such as the Vermont Telegraph went as far as to say women must be learners, not public teachers, showing some people's opposition to women teachers. Those who expressed their dislike of women teachers were not successful, because in 1850 there were more female primary school teachers than men.
Another change in America from 1820 to 1850 was the belief that adults could change, not just children. This belief led to the establishment of the American Society for the Promotion of Temperance in 1826. This organization reached 200,000 members by the mid-1830s, and its promotion of temperance led to a huge drop in alcohol consumption per capita from 1826 to 1840. The year is 1827, and Massachusetts is a pioneer in education due to radical legislature passed by Secretary of Massachusetts State Board of Education, Horace Mann. In Mann's 12th annual report, he discussed the importance of making consumers into producers, and this could be done through improved education. Having public education be paid for by public funding, a uniform curriculum, training for teachers, and skill-based grading were Mann's main points in his 1827 education legislature. With its ratification came an explosion of the percentage of children ages 5 to 19 attending school, forever changing how the nation treats education.
The
The idea for this legislator likely came from the growing support in evangelism, which changed how people saw children. Opposed to the Puritan belief that children were born sinners and therefore needed to be taught with cruelness, the evangelist movement opened the eyes of people to the goodness and purity of children. Now people saw that instead they needed to be taught with goodness and a gentle hand.
Soon after Massachusetts adapted this new view on education, other states followed suit. Education was spreading cross-country, and with it came a grave need for educators. One of the supporters of this bold move for national education was education advocate Catherine Beecher, who began helping with the training of educators by opening training schools for women across the country. In this excerpt of an 1837 letter to fellow feminist and abolitionist Angela Grimke, she calls upon the immense need for educators.
To give only a small supply of teachers to these destitute children, who are generally where the population is sparse, will demand 30,000 teachers. Where is this army of teachers to be found? Is it at all possible that the other sex will afford even a moderate portion of this supply? The field for enterprise and excitement in the political arena, in the arts, the sciences, the liberal professions, in agriculture, manufacturers, and commerce is opening with such temptations as never yet bore upon the mind of any nation. Will men turn aside from these high and exciting objects to become the patient laborers in schoolroom, and for only the small pittance and rewards such toil? No, they will not do it. Men will be educators in the college, in the high school, and in the most honorable and lucrative common schools. But in the children, the little children of this nation must to a wide extent be taught by females, or remain untaught. The drudgery of education, as it is now too generally regarded in this country, will be given to the female hand.
This call for woman educators was the first career opportunity for females, and women jumped at the opportunity. According to Howard Zinn, middle-class women began to monopolize primary school teaching jobs as their opportunity for higher education was limited. Across the nation were outpourings of females volunteering to teach on the distant western frontiers. Prime candidates were young, unmarried women who had a heightened sense of adventure.
I think this opportunity really changed a lot of things for women. Not only were they being more respected for their ability to become independent, but they were creating a networking system for themselves. Having a similar career path could really create a sense of community for these women. And not only that but they were getting to expand their horizons.
Mary Lyons Mount Holyoke Female Seminary was one of many locations that permitted women to have more of an outreach. Offering opportunities for global educational missionary trips gave women a way to see more of the world and spread education to the outreaches of the earth. Women were even broadening their...
Between 1780 and 1840, literacy among women doubled. Women were using this tool of education to push reform and help with abolitionist movements. Lucy Stone, a primary school teacher, began to teach colored students, which was a big movement for this time period, according to Zinn. But what was most powerful about this movement was the fact that it gave independence to women. It gave them the first real opportunity to make a career for themselves.
Oh, hello there. The growing literacy rates and opportunities for women to receive a decent education and new occupations for them to teach from the 1820s to 1850s was much like the ability for African Americans to access education after the Civil War. This opportunity for African Americans was huge, since 90% of the South's black population was illiterate in the 1860s. Even with these new and exciting opportunities, much of the white population disapproved of education for African Americans, which was very similar to the persecution women faced when they fought for education rights.
A newspaper, The Progressive Farmer, published in 1903, elaborated on this issue and fought for African Americans' right to an education. It shows how many people did not think it was acceptable for blacks to receive an education, much like women, but Clarence Poe states that African American education is essential for the progression of the South because blacks would be properly trained for their specific job in agriculture.
I think that the growth of education for African Americans post-Civil War was extremely powerful for the black population as it was for women from the 1820s to 1850s. It was seen that black women also gained teaching opportunities for American Ministry Association, or AMA, which was meant to train African American women teachers. These teaching opportunities for both white and black women were essential for these families to live stable lives, as well as turning away from the stereotype that women could not be independent and that the only place for them was in the home.
Evangelism, or a religion founded on self-approval through shifts in personal life, gained popularity throughout the 1790 through 1840 period known as the Second Great Awakening. Evangelism greatly encouraged personal and eventually social reform through ideals preached by reverends such as Charles G. Finney. Finney preached his perfectionist ideas, which were showcased by the idea that by living like God, you could become as perfect as God, as well as predicted the complete reformation of the world. This led to massive social and moral reform, which took off in the form of policies such as temperance and the formation of groups like the General Union for promoting the observance of the Christian Sabbath. This union wrote in newspapers like the Lewistown Gazette, which used religious advertisements that expressed evangelist ideas like the complete compliance with these rigorous laws, or else relinquish the common tenet that Sunday is the Sabbath. This type of religious propaganda greatly contributed to the growing reformation of the society from 1820 to 1850, as well as enforced the preaching of Lyman Beecher, a congressional minister focused on exercising reform through social movements such as temperance, which commonly made headlines in newspapers such as the Vermont Telegraph. We have been led to reflect much of this momentous subject, to search out and mark the obstacles in the way of the universal triumph of temperance. Temperance gained popularity coinciding with evangelism and Reformation movements, showcasing how the mobilization of evangelist ideals rapidly spread the religion, and along with it, the reformation of moral concepts such as the belief that all people were generally good. This new idea led to a reformation of the criminal justice systems, where prisoners could improve their lives through rigorous self-discipline and strict isolation, as well as led to the construction of asylums for those classified as mentally insane. Reformists believed that with a wholesome environment, the prisoners and insane would improve dramatically.
However, not all aspects of religious and social reform were beneficial to the overall society. Conflict erupted between the reformists and Catholic immigrants, which led to violence outbreaks in the form of riots. The foundation of American democracy was also shaken slightly with the reverends such as Lyman Beecher preaching anti-Catholicist sermons, which were believed to contribute to the anger that led to the burning of the Charleston Covenant in 1834.
Evangelism in the early to mid-1800s, which stemmed from the Second Great Awakening, has similarities with the overseas evangelist missions from 1870 to 1900. These missions were focused on reaching people overseas, mostly in the East such as China or Sri Lanka, whereas evangelism after the Second Great Awakening was clustered in North America throughout the states. The YMCA and YWCA were very important organizations during this time, and they embarked on a worldwide crusade to convert as many people as possible to Christianity.
Evangelists during these different time periods aim to reach different people and nations. They both had the goal of worldwide belief in Christianity. Charles G. Finney, a revivalist and preacher during the Second Great Awakening, said, "The spread of Christianity would lead to the complete reformation of the whole world." Another difference is that evangelism from 1820 to 1850 was focused on moral reform and spreading what the right way to live was. This could be seen during the temperance movement, when these evangelists strictly disapproved of drinking. Evangelism from 1870 to 1900, however, simply wanted to spread the gospel and Christianity across the world, because it was God's mission for them to spread His word, instead of focusing on the moral aspects.
An article in the Wheeling Daily Intelligencer, published in 1900, called "The United States and New Asia," elaborated on the missions during the late 1800s, which was clustered in the East. It talked about the obligation as a Christian to reach out and spread the gospel to foreign lands. This article quotes the Bible in Matthew 28:19, which says, "Go disciple all nations." as it was the main focus of these missions.
That was Evangelism and Education.
The end!